Hey everyone! Today I'm going to tell you about a man who literally named a month after himself. He laid the foundation for the Roman Empire. And 2,000 years after his death, the word Caesar still means leader. In Russian, it's Tsar. In German, Kaiser. All from this one guy. This man was so legendary that his name became the word for ruler for thousands of years. Julius Caesar. This man single-handedly collapsed the Roman Republic. He conquered Gaul. He had a romance with Cleopatra, and in the end he was stabbed by his own friends. But the story isn't that simple. If you're ready, let's dive in. Caesar was born in 100 BC. Picture this. This kid came from a noble family. So yeah, rich. But they weren't the richest of the rich in Rome. Wealthy, but not quite at the top. For Caesar, this was constant motivation. I need to be at the very top, he thought. At a young age, he made a crucial decision. In Rome at that time, there were two groups: the conservative elites and the populares, the people's faction. Which one do you think Caesar chose? Of course, the people's faction. Why? Because he thought strategically. If you appeal to the masses, you get mass support. But this decision almost cost him his life. The Roman dictator Sulla asked Caesar, "What's your relationship with my enemies?" Caesar refused to back down. Sulla wanted him dead. Young Caesar had to flee Rome. Here's a crazy detail. While escaping, he was captured by pirates. They demanded ransom. You know what Caesar did? He laughed. "Is that all?" he said. "I'm worth way more than that." He raised his own ransom amount. Then he told the pirates something. "When I'm free, I'll come back and crucify all of you." The pirates thought it was a joke. They laughed. When he was released, what did he do? He came back, captured the pirates, and crucified them. The man kept his word. This incident tells us so much about Caesar's character. He was brave, he kept his promises, and most importantly, his self-confidence was unshakable. When Caesar returned to Rome, he understood one thing. You can't be powerful alone. You need alliances, and he formed one of history's most famous political partnerships, the First Triumvirate. 3 men. First, Pompey, Rome's most famous general, military power. Second, Crassus, Rome's richest man, money. Third, Caesar, political genius, charismatic leader. These 3 made a deal. If we unite, no one can oppose us. And that's exactly what happened. Caesar became consul, kind of like prime minister, but consulship only lasts 1 year and then it's over. What did Caesar do? He got himself appointed governor of Gaul. Where's Gaul, you ask? Modern-day France, Belgium, and parts of Switzerland. Why Gaul? Because Gaul was unconquered, wealthy, and would bring Caesar fame. The only way to gain fame in Rome was through military victory. When Caesar went to Gaul, he knew this. Either he'd win a great victory there, or he'd die. There was no middle ground. Caesar spent 9 years in Gaul, and he carried out a complete massacre. But such a massacre that its consequences lasted 1,000 years. Imagine this. Caesar's army had 50,000 men. Gaul had 4 million people. The man defeated the majority with the minority. How? First, genius strategies. Caesar wasn't just a good general, he also showed engineering brilliance. He built a bridge over the Rhine River in 10 days. He sent a message to the Germans. "Look, I can go anywhere I want." Then he destroyed the bridge and went back. Psychological warfare. The second major event was the Siege of Alesia. A Gallic leader named Vercingetorix united all the tribes against Caesar. Caesar besieged the city, but a relief army was also coming from outside. You know what Caesar did? He besieged the city and built a second wall facing outward against the incoming army. He fought on 2 fronts and won. This was a genuinely brilliant move. Think about it. You're stuck in the middle. You're fighting both the enemy inside and the one outside, and you're defeating both. But here's a very important point. Caesar wasn't just a general, he was also a brilliant writer. He wrote his book, The Gallic Wars, himself. He did his own propaganda. In Rome, people were reading about Caesar's victories every day. People would wake up wondering what Caesar had done. The man was both fighting wars and doing his own PR. What do we call this today? Social media strategy. 2,000 years ago, there was no social media, but Caesar was creating the same effect with his books. What was the result? 1 million Gauls died. 1 million were sold as slaves. Terrible, but a great victory for Rome. Caesar was no longer just a general. He was a legend. This is where things got messy. While Caesar was winning in Gaul, back in Rome, Crassus died. Pompey allied with the Senate. The Senate feared Caesar. This man has become too powerful, they said. He should give up his army and return to Rome. But here was the problem. If Caesar returned to Rome without his army, his enemies would put him on trial and most likely kill him. In 49 BC, Caesar called his army back from Gaul. At the Italian border was the Rubicon River. Crossing that river with an army was illegal. It meant declaring war. Caesar stopped. He thought. And he said, "Alea iacta est," the die is cast. He crossed the river. Civil war began. This moment is so iconic that even today, the phrase crossing the Rubicon means making a decision with no turning back. You applied for a job, you accepted it, you started working. You've crossed the Rubicon. There's no going back now. Pompey fled. Caesar chased him, all the way to Egypt. Pompey was killed in Egypt, and Caesar met Cleopatra. But that's another story. Caesar returned to Rome. He had no rivals left. He was declared dictator for life. Now most people hear the word dictator and think bad. But Caesar did a lot for the people. He reformed the calendar, the Julian calendar, the foundation of the calendar we use today. He distributed land to the poor. He started work programs for the unemployed. He reduced debts. The people loved Caesar, but he hated the Senate. He looked down on the senators. He didn't care about their decisions. "I'm the leader of the people," he said, "not yours." And this is where he made a mistake. He pardoned his enemies. He pardoned many of his enemies, including Brutus and Cassius. He even gave them high positions. "Mercy is a sign of strength," he said. He was wrong. Caesar was so powerful that he started to think he was invincible. He didn't see the dangers around him, or he ignored them. There was a prophecy. Beware the Ides of March, the 15th of March. They told Caesar, but he didn't care. 44 BC, the 15th of March, the famous Ides of March. Caesar went to the Senate. 60 men surrounded him. Daggers were drawn. Even his closest friend Brutus was there. When Caesar saw him, he said, "Et tu, Brute? You too, Brutus." 23 stab wounds. Caesar fell to the ground and died in a pool of blood, at the foot of Pompey's statue. Ironic, isn't it? The assassins thought, "Caesar's dead, it's over. The Roman Republic will return." But they were very wrong. At Caesar's funeral, Mark Antony read his will. Caesar had left part of his fortune to the Roman people. The crowd went wild. They drove the assassins out of the city. Caesar died, but he won. After Caesar's death, his nephew Octavian came to power, and he founded the Roman Empire. Caesar's dream came true. What remains of Julius Caesar today? The month of July. From Julius. The word Caesar, meaning leader, crossing the Rubicon. An irreversible decision. Veni, vidi, vici. I came, I saw, I conquered. The man lived 2,000 years ago, but he's still talked about in Shakespeare plays, movies, and TV shows. Was Julius Caesar perfect? Absolutely not. He was responsible for the deaths of thousands. He was a dictator. He was arrogant. But leaders who leave their mark on history are usually not perfect. They're remembered for their vision, their courage, and their strategic thinking. The lessons Caesar teaches us: be brave, take risks, market yourself, think strategically, but be careful. Arrogance and underestimating your enemies can be your downfall. Which leader do you want to see in the next video? Write it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.